Hey everyone, this video is designed to show you the different types of informative speeches that are possible for your informative speech assignment. And hopefully this can give you a couple of ideas of what you could possibly use as the topic for your informative speeches if you didn't have anything in mind already. So getting right into it, we have the first type is an object type of informative speech. Now, when we say objects, we're thinking of things like mechanical objects, and while they are alive and they might be our best friends or our little babies, animals can also be considered objects as well. If there's anything interesting about an animal that you want to share with your audience, or that you think they would benefit from more knowledge about a specific animal, things in nature, things like plants, trees, etc. Say you wanted to give a speech on the ginkgo biloba tree, and how it's such an old tree, and we use it for things like memory, etc. Um, some different types of object speeches can be things that are pretty simple, but good object speeches will tend to focus on either something unfamiliar to your audience or something familiar but overlooked. And a great example of that is the ballpoint pen. So like the Bic ballpoint pen, the one that we always lose, throw away, etc. The introduction of that pen into society actually helped to increase literacy rates within society because it made writing utensils widely available at a pretty significantly cheaper cost. So something like that can be a great informative speech because while it's so simple, there's a lot to it. But a lot of options when it comes to objects for informative speeches. Now, the next type of speech are informative speeches about people. Now, informative speeches about people can focus on either real or fictional individuals. It doesn't really matter as long as you are sharing something or teaching us something interesting about these individuals. But they do tend to require some in-depth biographical research in order to not only be accurate in what you're presenting to us, but also to find some of the details that the average person probably wouldn't know that are more surface level. So, good speeches about people will typically introduce a new person to your audience, but even if they don't introduce a new person to your audience, they might shed light on someone we thought we already knew a lot about. So, some examples of informative speeches about people: an informative speech about Bayard Rustin and his contributions to the civil rights movement. So Bayard Rustin informed Martin Luther King Jr. About nonviolent protest, uh, organized the March on Washington, was like a big part of organizing the March on Washington, etc. You could inform us about somebody like Cesar Chavez and what he did for farm workers. You could inform us about the Dalai Lama and what their role is in the world. So a lot of different things that you can do when it comes to informative speeches about people. Now, the next type of I don't know why, but like my computer's just not going to the next slide unless I just keep hitting the button. So sorry about that. But um, another type of informative speech that you can do is informative speeches about concepts. Now these can get a little bit heady or a little bit abstract because these do tend to be less concrete than other categories of informative, but they can also be really fascinating types of speeches as well. So these types of speeches about concepts, they tend to focus on ideas and notions that might be multifaceted. And so we can learn a lot and can be fascinating to hear and learn about. But it can be a little bit difficult to make sure that you don't lose your audience. Now, topics for concepts can range from things that are somewhat familiar concepts um, to your audience, but they can also be completely new and unfamiliar concepts entirely. So some examples of informative speeches about concepts. You could inform us about feminism and maybe challenge some of the misinformation surrounding feminism. You could inform us about altruism, Afrofuturism, many different isms that we hear about, but we don't know too much about the specifics. So these can be great informative speech topics. But again, it can be a little difficult to rein it in and make sure that that your audience stays with you. But the key is to draw a link to your audience to illustrate its relevance. So even if somebody feels like they just have no relation or no relevance to whatever you're talking about, draw that link for them. Show them why it's relevant. Now, another type of speech that we can use is a events informative speech. Now, informative speeches about events will focus on either past occasions or ongoing occurrences. Not things in the future, because there's really no information that you could inform us about things in the future. So typically past events or ongoing events. Now you could inform us about a particular day in history, like something like D-Day, or you can inform us about the annual observation of certain holidays. That's missing a parentheses. I don't know why. You could also inform us about seldomly occurring events, something like the super bloom that happens in the desert. Now, what's important with event informative speeches is that you want to provide a little bit of backstory for the event. Give us a little bit of history behind it so that we know what led up to this event or what leads up to this event if you're talking about something like the super bloom. And finally, the last type of informative speech category are process type speeches. Now, these are typically known as your how-to speeches or demonstration speeches, how something works, where you describe the process of how something works or you guide us through how to do something. These are the how to solve a Rubik's Cube, how to make a paper crane with origami, that kind of stuff. Now, each main point might be a general step in the process. It really depends on how you decide to organize it. And when it comes to organization, we'll talk about how to organize these types of speeches in the next video that you'll be seeing. So with process type speeches or these how-to speeches, demonstrations, etc., be careful with ones like how to tie a tie, because while that can be a pretty simple speech to deliver, it doesn't have too much information behind it. So it might be a very short speech. But the way that you can make a speech like that longer is maybe giving us a little bit of background about why ties came into existence in the first place, how the rules governing how to wear a tie came into existence. Think of things like that in order to improve on, or not improve, expand upon a seemingly simple topic like that. So finally, some things to remember, some tips for you and things not to do. First of all, pick a topic that excites you. It's so much better watching somebody inform us about or share something with us that they are passionate about, that they care about, that they want the audience to know about. So pick something that you care about and that you care about your audience learning about. Be creative in how you present your topics. So if you think explaining something is going to be a little bit difficult, try to find a way to explain that maybe with a visual aid in order to make that explanation make more sense. And finally, have fun. Like with any other speech in this class, have fun with it. Now, some things not to do, probably should go without mention, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Don't bring anything illegal into the classroom, and that means things like weapons, drugs, etc. I understand that marijuana is legal in California. However, it is not legal to have it on a college campus. Neither is alcohol, and that goes for weapons, etc. So don't do that. I'm pretty sure everyone knows, can use their best judgment. but do not bring anything illegal into the classroom. With that said, also don't bring live animals into the classroom as well, because there potentially could be individuals with allergies to certain animals, and we don't want to flare up allergies, or take that risk, or take the risk of inducing harm onto an animal if they get scared. So no live animals, don't bring weapons, drugs, etc. And other than that, if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, those are the different categories of speeches for informative speaking that you could pull from. Um, if you're not sure about something being a worthy topic or not, let me know, and I can help talk you through whether or not it would be something that could be useful as a topic. All right. Thank you.